You know the face, the scream, the kid who became Christmas. But what if I told you that behind that iconic smile was a childhood so dark, so twisted, that it nearly destroyed him completely? This isn't about Home Alone. This is about what happened when the cameras stopped rolling. And trust me, it's worse than you think. Picture this: New York City, mid-1980s, a cramped railroad apartment, 7 kids, 1 bathroom with no lock, multiple bunk beds crammed wall to wall in a single bedroom. And somewhere in that chaos, sleeping on a couch despite making millions of dollars, is the most famous child on planet Earth. His name, Macaulay Culkin. But here's the thing nobody talks about. He never wanted any of it. See, acting wasn't Mac's dream, it was his father's. Kit Culkin, a failed Broadway actor whose biggest claim to fame was being an extra in West Side Story back in 1961. A man so desperate for success that during an off-Broadway production of King Lear, he fell off the stage, injured himself, and never recovered from the humiliation. So what does a failed actor do when his own dreams die? Simple. He forces them onto his kids. Kit had 7 children, 7 potential lottery tickets, and he used them all, dragging them to auditions, pushing them onto stages, treating them like props in his twisted redemption arc. But then something unexpected happened. One of the kids, the quiet, gentle middle child, turned out to be extraordinary. Macaulay wasn't just good, he was magnetic. Producers noticed immediately the timing, the expressions, the fearlessness. And Kit? He saw dollar signs. Within a few years, Mac went from picking coins off movie theater floors to starring in Uncle Buck, which made $67 million at the box office. Overnight, the family's poverty evaporated. But here's where things get dark. From that moment on, the entire household depended on the income of a child. Kit stopped working, he lived off Mac's paycheck, and he made sure Mac understood exactly who was in charge. How? By making him sleep on the couch. Not because they couldn't afford a bed, but because Kit wanted him to remember, every single night, that he owned him. Then came 1990, Home Alone, the movie that would change everything. John Hughes wrote the script specifically for Mac after working with him on Uncle Buck. And when it hit theaters, it exploded. 3rd highest grossing film of all time, nearly $500 million worldwide. The industry even coined a phrase: movies were getting Home Aloned. A 9-year-old became one of the most recognizable faces on Earth.
I mean, this is it, pal. You are a bona fide star as of right now. The #1 box office movie of the weekend. Nice to have you on the show.
Okay.
But if you watch Mac's interviews from that time, something feels off. He's not excited. He's not starstruck. He's just numb. Yeah, it's all in a day's work, he said on live TV.
Happy about this success?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all in a day's work, isn't it?
Because for him, it was. Acting wasn't a dream. It was a routine he'd been placed into, and everyone else was steering. Now, here's where Kit's control became suffocating. When Mac hosted Saturday Night Live at age 11, Kit refused to let him use cue cards. He forced Mac to memorize everything: sketches, monologues, timing, creating chaos for the cast, who relied on those cards. Why? Because Kit needed everyone to know his son was different, special, superior. And as Mac's fame exploded, Kit traveled with him everywhere. Every shoot, every interview, every single moment. Kit was there, managing every detail, asserting dominance. Mac made $100,000 for Home Alone, then $1 million for My Girl, then $4.5 million for Home Alone 2. By 1994, at just 14 years old, he was earning $8 million per film, the highest paid child actor in history. But here's the insane part. Despite all that money, Kit still made him sleep on the couch, because it was never about comfort, it was about power. And then Mac met someone who understood: Michael Jackson. Both grew up with fathers who treated their children like instruments. Joe Jackson pushed the Jackson 5 through brutal discipline, physical punishments, relentless rehearsals, constant fear. Mac recognized pieces of his own life in Michael's stories. Nobody else in my Catholic school had any idea what I was going through, Mac said years later.
You know, I was like, yeah, like nobody else in my Catholic school even had even this much idea of what I was going through.
Michael had been through the exact same thing. He wanted to make sure I wasn't alone. To the world, their friendship seemed strange. But to Mac, Michael wasn't a superstar. He was the only adult who treated him like a kid instead of a product. But back in Hollywood, cracks were forming. In 1993, Premiere magazine ranked Kit Culkin the 48th most powerful person in Hollywood, ahead of Michael Douglas and Eddie Murphy. Studios complained that he tried to control creative decisions, clashing with directors and producers. His reputation was toxic. And Mac, he was exhausted. After filming The Good Son in 1993, Mac begged his father for a break. "I just want to go to school, do normal kid stuff." Kit said sure, then immediately booked him for another movie. That's when Mac realized he had no way out. Then came 1994, The Breaking Point. 4 films back to back: The Nutcracker, Getting Even with Dad, The Pagemaster, Richie Rich. Audiences were exhausted. Critics were brutal. Mac was nominated for 3 Golden Raspberry Awards, Hollywood's anti-Oscars. At 14 years old, the industry treated him like he was washed up. But for Mac, the collapse was a blessing, because it finally gave him leverage. When his parents' marriage crumbled in 1995, a brutal 2-year custody battle erupted, and Mac learned things he never knew. His parents were never married. His trust fund was worth $50 million, and both parents were fighting, not out of love, but for control over his fortune. So at 15 years old, Mac made a decision that shocked everyone. He petitioned the court to remove both parents' names from his trust fund. He didn't emancipate. He just took them out of the financial equation. And on the final day of the trial, Kit Culkin didn't even show up. He packed his belongings, stole all of Mac's childhood memorabilia, photos, awards, keepsakes, and left town. No note, no goodbye, no explanation. He just vanished. For the next decade, Mac disappeared too. He dyed his hair pink, got married at 17, tried to live a normal teenage life. In 2003, he attempted a comeback with Party Monster, a dark, edgy role meant to break his child star image. It bombed, 29% on Rotten Tomatoes, less than $1 million at the box office. Then came the arrest. Marijuana, Xanax, clonazepam found in his car during a traffic stop. His mugshot spread everywhere. The narrative wrote itself, another child star gone wrong. His divorce, his breakup with Mila Kunis after 8 years together, and then the worst moment of his life. December 2008. Mac's older sister Dakota was walking home when she was struck by a vehicle. She died from severe head trauma. Mac couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't find a reason to get out of bed. Then, 6 months later, Michael Jackson passed away. The man who understood his childhood better than anyone was gone. Photos of Mac during this time are haunting. He looked skeletal, exhausted, deeply unwell. Tabloids pushed reckless stories claiming he was addicted to heroin and had months to live. None of it was true, but the damage was done. So how does this story end? In 2013, Mac started a comedy band called the Pizza Underground. They were booed off stage in Nottingham after 15 minutes, but he kept going. He moved to Paris for 4 years.
What was it that brought you to Paris?
Well, the food sucks, the wine's terrible, and the women are ugly. But otherwise, it's fantastic. Yeah. No, it's like it was an agreeable lifestyle. I had a bunch of friends out there. They were always asking me, when are you going to move to Paris and when are you going to learn French?
Found peace in anonymity, and in 2018, he met Brenda Song while filming a small indie project. They connected instantly, got engaged, had 2 sons, Dakota, named after his late sister, and Carson. Becoming a father changed everything. In 2021, he made his acting comeback in American Horror Story, launched a podcast, started appearing on social media again, and on December 1st, 2023, he received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. When he took the podium, he didn't talk about his career. He talked about Brenda. "You're not only the best woman I've ever known, you're the best person I've ever known. You gave me purpose. You gave me family."
You are absolutely everything. You're not only the best woman I've ever known, you're the best person I've ever known. Give me just all my purpose. You've given me family.
And he ended with the only line that made sense. "Merry Christmas, you filthy animals."
Merry Christmas, you filthy animals.
As for his father, Mac hasn't spoken to him in over 30 years. He's had 7 kids and 4 grandkids, Mac said recently, and none of them want anything to do with him. He's the worst person I've ever known.
He's a man who had 7 kids, and now he has 4 grandkids, and none of them want anything to do with him. He's the worst person I've ever known in my entire life.
Because Mac isn't driven by revenge. He's driven by protection. His sons will never experience what he did. So, yeah, you know the face, the scream, the kid who became Christmas. But now you know the truth. Macaulay Culkin didn't just survive Hollywood, he survived his own father. And somehow, against all odds, he found a way to rebuild the life he was never allowed to have.